This episode of Paradigm Profiles is called the Placentia Murder. On June 7, 2018, in a federal USP MCFP Springfield, located in Springfield, Missouri, a legendary Mexican mafia figure by the name of Peter Ojeda passed away. He died alone at the age of 75. Sana hardly lived what most would consider a gratified and contented life. His life was plagued with long prison stints, deprivation of fatherhood, never relishing or experiencing the joys of traveling the world, never having savored the fruits of enjoying real freedom, and all the other sacrifices that come with living that lifestyle. Sana, without question, died as an old, lonely, and dejected man. I'm sure he had more bad days than good, being slammed down in some of California's state prisons and then spending his final years in some of the federal USPs. But even though he lived and endured this desolate and despondent existence, he undoubtedly died with integrity while also staying true to his beliefs. Whether some might consider his beliefs to be good, bad, righteous, or corrupted, they were his beliefs, and nobody took that away from him. Within the MA, I'm sure they realized that they lost one of their most dedicated and prominent figures. Sana became a modern-day godfather to Orange County, and his influence out there was unparalleled. For more than 30 years, Sana amassed unmatched power among Orange County gang members, continuing to control criminal activity. Despite a 2006 federal racketeering conviction that left him residing in a prison cell 3 time zones away. One of the most remembered visions of Sana that people always reflect back on is images of him at El Salvador Park wearing a brown flannel Pendleton, wielding his will over hundreds of hardcore Sureño gang members on a raised platform.
Saturday afternoon in January 1992, when Peter Sana Ojeda delivered a message to hundreds of gangsters at El Salvador Park, stop the drive-by shootings. Gang killings were on the rise in Orange County, and bringing rival gangs together seemed nearly impossible. But Ojeda had the respect and the reputation. Ojeda was Orange County's Mexican mafia leader. For the next several months, Ojeda held a series of peacekeeping meetings to end the violence. Some civic leaders applauded his effort, but law enforcement officials suspected that by ordering drive-by shootings to stop, he was establishing not just control in drug sales, but in gang violence as well. Those who refused to obey Mexican mafia were assaulted and killed. In 1993, Ojeda was charged with being a felon in possession of a firearm. That year, Santa Ana detectives investigated 48 gang killings. Ojeda's grip on Orange County streets continued from inside prison walls. Ojeda was paroled in 2000. 5 years later, he was sent to federal prison after pleading guilty to racketeering and was sentenced to serve 14 years. In July, the 68-year-old Ojeda was again named in a federal indictment, which claims he continued to exercise control of Orange County gangs from federal prison. Reporting for the Orange County.
But those that die with dignity and honor are always respected with veneration. That's just the way it is. Eventually, it always happens. Like the old adage says, out with the old, in with the new. When one falls, there's always another up and coming who's ready to move in and seize the opportunity. Quickly maneuvering and jostling for that vacated position. In 2007, an internal conflict between Sana and Armando Mondo Moreno developed and escalated over the power and rights to run Orange County. This internal war between these two factions escalated both on the streets and in the county jail. Mondo was an up-and-coming MA member that was actually a one-time protege of Sana's. At the time when the internal power struggle first began, Sana was close to being 70 years old. Mondo apparently assumed that Sana wouldn't be around for too much longer and seen this as his opportunity to take the reins over Orange County. He realized the potential of having a lot of loyal street gang members underneath him, and that's when all the problems started happening. In the blink of an eye, he went from a staunch ally to a bitter enemy. But even though Sana was pushing 70, he had no intention on giving up the empire that he created and that he had run for so many years. But what wasn't known by Sana and other Mexican mafia members who voted in the newly minted member is that Mondo was a former Crip gang member. Mondo's willingness to defy Sana, coupled with this newly developed information about Mondo's previous alignment with an African American gang, provided fodder for a politicking campaign against the younger MM member. It's a long-standing known fact that the Mexican Mafia does not condone such associations with black street gang members. The racial disparities have always been deep amongst these two organizations, and the racial discord has always been at the forefront of their disparagement. Needless to say, the internal power struggle ended up fizzling out just as fast as it had begun. Mondo ended up coming out on the losing end of this conflict, and Sana would continue to maintain the reins all the way up until his death. In 2016, following the power struggle with Mondo, Sana was once again convicted of racketeering, and this conviction all but guaranteed he'd end up spending the rest of his natural life in federal prison. The name of the indictment was called Operation Black Flag, and Sana was the main target. But no sooner than Sana had passed, there was yet another up-and-coming MM member who was already looming in the shadows and who was also waiting for his opportunity at filling the void. Johnny Martinez became the new de facto leader of Orange County following the death of Sana. Crow is considered to be a shrewd and calculating individual. He's been lurking in the shadows and has had his eyes on Sana's position since Sana was embroiled in a deadly and destructive conflict with former MM member Armando Moreno. And even after Mondo and his minions were eliminated and came up on the losing end of the conflict, Crow was still maneuvering and aligning himself into position to step up and take Sana's power once his run was over. One of Sana's strongest abilities was his ability to influence people on the streets, and he just had a way of getting people to make monetary contributions. He used brute force when he needed to, but most of the time he just did it with finesse.
Watch out, there's this wacko from Brownside and the vatos from Townsend, going over there tomorrow, capping, shooting paisas, homie. Shooting the homies' uncles and shit like that. They're not even asking where you're from or not. I'm from Brownside. See, Brownside and Townsend. And, yo no quiero, like, I told the homies, you know what, keep back, because, I caught work day. They're doing something with you, ¿sí me entiendes? About the Townsend. So I don't want to step on your toes or nada, ¿sí me entiendes? Entonces, see if we can look into that, ¿qué pasa, ¿sí me entiendes? Yeah, Brownside. Took the light off of him. We'll put it right back on him again. Yeah, porque, they just shut the thing down. No están preguntando que va a ser wacko, vato. Wacko, Brownside. Watch out. This is for me, homie. Okay. Me pongo respeto, homie. Estoy trabajando yo y, just tú sabes, homie, gracias por todo. Stay out here, homie. So, you want me to get back on you? Because I not told the homies, palabras on the street right now. That's from the boat downtown, so I got nada. Let me see what's up. You know what I mean? Because, get back with me tomorrow, homie. Get back with me mañana? Tomorrow, on this time? Yeah. Or in a couple of days. Hey, what's up with Chico, homie? I don't know where he's at. He's got a number. ¿Qué pasó? Oh, you know what? You got a new number? I don't have his number. I've been waiting for him to call me. I haven't been able to reach him or not. Homie, tampoco. Yeah. I'm waiting for his call, man. I've been waiting for his suggestion. Yeah, was that right? Yeah. Oh, no. ¿Qué te iba a decir? You got a new number? I got the same number. Okay. I'm going to get a new number. I got the phone because the piece of the voice keeps going and dying out of me. It doesn't ring until I'm talking and it just cuts it. Cut off. Okay. And as far as in the neighborhood, ahorita nadie está haciendo nada, homie. The parts that we're doing something, they're in Mexico on vacations right now. Whatever. I'm just thinking, if I got your back on whatever I need to do, you know what I mean? As far as I clean up the things and all that. Yeah. You got that. All right, homie, and a ver si we can look into that. Outside peso. I'll do that. Sí. I'll be on there. Entonces, ¿qué hecho mañana? Yeah. All right, homie.
Sana's demise basically led to Crow's rise. And like Sana, who mostly led Orange County from behind bars, Crow is also serving a 15 to life sentence for previous murder and attempted murder convictions. Sana ultimately ended up dying in MCFP Springfield, Missouri at a USP medical facility. And according to some people, Crow is twice as violent as Sana and hasn't wasted any time when it's come to spilling blood. While Crow was housed in Salinas Valley State Prison, authorities claim that he used a contraband cell phone between October 8, 2016 and January 18, 2017 to place over 3,500 phone calls to fellow gang members on the streets, and that he orchestrated the killing of a guy who refused to pay taxes and the attempted murder of another former associate. According to court transcripts, Crow apparently found out that a former associate who was in bad standings with the MA was living in the city of Placentia. Crow sent 2 of his hitters to go whack this individual, but he ended up surviving. The 2 MA associates that went to the target's house caught him slipping and shot him 7 times, but the guy was still able to escape and make it to a hospital where doctors were barely able to save his life. On January 19, 2017, it was alleged that Crow sent 4 of his gang associates to collect money from a known dope dealer by the name of Robert Rios. Rios was also a Sureño gang member who was selling dope in the area that Crow considered to be his territory. Because of this, he fell under the auspices of the MA and the control they have over all Sureños in both Northern and Southern California. But after several attempts at getting Rios in line with the MA's kickback or taxation policies, he refused, asserting that he was being charged more than other dealers out there who were also slinging dope, and that Crow's crew was attempting to strong-arm him. Due to the fact that Crow was just stepping into the position of Orange County's new leader, he didn't waste any time lollygagging or messing around with this guy. Instead, he used him to make a very important example out of those who don't pay and who choose to defy the Mexican Mafia's street policies. On the night of the murder, Gregory Snoop Munoz, Israel Trips Cordova, Ricardo Sola Valenzuela, and Augustine Boogie Velasquez all suited up in heavy clothing, duffel bags that contained kill kits, gloves, beanies, and long-arm guns. The murder was apparently caught on an outside video surveillance camera that was located on the outside of Rios' house. The surveillance system was actually an elaborate system that was set up by Rios and another guy who was also selling dope at Rios' house. It was set up to warn them of anyone who may have tried to approach the house to rob them, and it was also meant to serve as a warning system to alert them in the event law enforcement ever approached the house to conduct a raid.
Investigators say this all started when a cell phone was snuck into prison, where the head of the Mexican Mafia got a hold of it, and he started ordering, at least investigators say, members of the Mexican Mafia on the outside to kill. You're looking at grainy security tape of 3 men pointing rifles at a man on the ground in front of his Placentia home. It was a January night of last year. You can see the victim tackle one of the gunmen. Moments later, they killed him. His murder remained a mystery until now.
We know what they did. We got confiscated these telephones, got a great deal of information off the telephones.
The Orange County District Attorney announced today that Johnny Martinez, whom they refer to as the head of the Mexican Mafia, ordered the Placentia man's murder while he was serving 15 years to life in prison.
Unfortunately, putting these individuals in prison doesn't seem to stop them from committing crimes. With a cell phone and a notepad, they continue to manage their criminal enterprise.
Investigators say Martinez ordered armed members of the Mexican Mafia to go to Robert Rios' home to collect money and drugs. When he refused to pay, police say they shot him in his front yard. Using a contraband cell phone in prison, investigators say Martinez made thousands of phone calls and ordered another hit last August, but that victim survived. 8 others were also charged today. Placentia police hope this sends a clear message.
If you come to Placentia to do others harm, you come to Placentia to gun other people down, no matter who you are, we will come after you. We will investigate that crime vigorously and not stop until you're brought to justice.
Martinez and the 8 others now face a slew of charges, including 1 murder charge each and also an attempted murder charge each.
Imagine this as it played out. You lay down with your wife and you guys call it a night. As you're laying there in bed, someone kicks the door open and 3 dudes with long guns come barging in. You take one look at these dudes and you can tell by their attire and what they're wearing that they didn't come to negotiate or they didn't come for any social reasons. They tell you to get up, to get out of bed, and to come outside in front of the house. By now, your survival instincts and your will to live kicks in and you begin to think about fight or flight. A way to either overpower one of these dudes or a way to escape without getting hurt. This is exactly what happened in this situation. Rios obviously started weighing out his options and decided to make a run for it. What else could he do? When they put him on the ground outside in front of his house, he knew that they were going to kill him and he had nothing to lose. That's a tough situation to be in. On one hand, you're thinking about trying to get away and how you can get out of this situation without being killed. But at the same time, your wife's still in the house and you just can't leave her behind either. You don't know if they're going to kill her if you do end up getting away. But obviously, when Rios was outside on the ground, he realized the gravity of the situation he was in and tried to make a break for it. He ends up tackling Boogie, who's keeping point over him while both Trips and Solo were in the house doing whatever they were doing. He probably figured, this is my only opportunity to make a break for it. If I don't do it now, I'm dead for sure. But as you can see from looking at the video, Rios rushes Boogie, they struggle falling backwards over the fence, and then this draws the attention of Trips and Solo. From this point on, things go bad for Rios, as this prompts these guys to kill him. You can't see what happens after they're out of the view of the camera, but they end up killing him a few seconds later. Trips is the one who actually opened up fire on Rios, killing him on the sidewalk directly in front of the house. But as Trips was shooting at Rios, he also inadvertently shot Solo twice in the leg. Later, after the killing, Solo had a friend drive him to the hospital, where authorities then became suspicious about his involvement in the killing of Rios. This would obviously prompt an investigation, but the case actually came together when a 4th guy named Charles Coghill, who acted as the getaway driver, sat down with authorities and gave a full confession in consideration for a reduced sentence. Coghill told authorities that Rios' killing stemmed from a debt that Rios owed another Mexican Mafia member named Gregory Snoops Munoz. Snoops was also incarcerated and acted as Crow's second in command. Rios apparently owed Snoops money for drugs that were given to him on consignment, and for whatever reason, Rios refused to pay this debt back despite several warnings and several attempts at collecting it from some of the same guys that would end up taking part in his murder later. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Paradigm Profiles. This is an example of a shorter story we're going to start putting out so that we can get more content out to you guys. We're already working on several others, so they should start dropping soon. Also, get your questions in now, as we're also working on another Q&A. As always, thank you guys for your support and for just keeping it positive.